Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we are going to explore one of the most fascinating, absolutely mind-bending regions of the human body, and that is the abdominal cavity. When we're kids, we rely on these simple, flat diagrams in our science textbooks to understand our own anatomy. We learn that, okay, the liver is here, the stomach is over there, and maybe the kidneys are somewhere in the back. But what those two-dimensional drawings completely fail to capture is the sheer three-dimensional marvel of engineering that is happening inside of us, right at this very second. It's not just a static collection of parts, it's a dynamic, living, breathing puzzle.
And this brings up a fantastic question, one we really need to answer right off the bat. Is there actually empty space between your organs? As kids, so many of us imagine that our internal organs are just sort of, floating freely inside this cavernous body. We picture a lot of air or empty room in there. But when you actually look at real human anatomy, you realize how incredibly wrong that common misconception is. The reality is, the abdomen is a tightly packed, highly coordinated machine with absolutely zero wasted space. Literally none. Every single organ is precisely positioned, seamlessly connected, and perfectly coordinated with its neighbors. The physical boundaries of this incredible machine start right at the top with the diaphragm. That's a large, dome-shaped muscular sheet that drives our breathing, and then it extends all the way down to the pelvic bone at the bottom. It's a continuous, pressurized environment where these incredibly complex processes happen in perfect physical concert.
Let's move to Section 1, Liver, the processing hub. Let's start our spatial tour right at the top right of this cavity with the liver. This is our ultimate biological processing hub. It's the largest internal organ in the human body, and it sits snug just under that right side of the diaphragm. What's truly amazing about this placement is that because it is right beneath that breathing muscle, this large, solid organ moves up and down with every single breath we take. You are essentially giving your liver a gentle internal massage all day, every day. So, the crucial point is understanding the number 500. The liver performs over 500 distinct, vital functions. It is an absolutely critical lifeline for the human body. It's not just doing one or two things, it's the ultimate multitasker. It filters your blood continuously without ever taking a break. It detoxifies harmful substances, produces the bile you desperately need to break down fats, and it stores energy as glycogen. It even acts as a warehouse for essential vitamins and minerals, all while regulating your overall metabolism. Literally every single nutrient you consume from your food eventually has to pass through the liver. It makes sure that everything you eat is properly converted, packaged, and distributed, so your internal engine doesn't fail. Which brings us to Section 2, Stomach and the Gut Policeman. Now moving geographically downward and just slightly to the left, we arrive at our next stop, the stomach. It's tucked neatly just below and slightly behind the liver. This muscular, J-shaped pouch is where the major initial phase of your digestion kicks into high gear. We often think of the stomach as just a static pool of acid, but actually, scratch that. It is so much more violent and dynamic. Food enters via the esophagus, and yes, strong acids and powerful enzymes start the chemical breakdown. But here is the amazing 3D mechanical part. The stomach aggressively churns and twists. It contracts forcefully, mixing everything together in a multi-directional squeeze. This mechanical churning turns your food into a thick, semi-liquid mixture known as chyme. Now, draped right in front of all these organs, almost like a biological apron, is something you probably haven't heard of. It's called the greater omentum. It's a large, dramatic fold of fatty connective tissue that hangs down from the base of the stomach and physically covers the intestines. It rests right there in the very front of your abdominal cavity, acting as an incredible layer for fat storage and, surprisingly, as a primary line of your immune defense. In the medical world, it has earned an absolutely incredible nickname, the policeman of the gut. Why? Because it actually moves on its own. I mean, no way, right? If you have an infection, like, say, a ruptured appendix or severe inflammation somewhere in your lower abdomen, the greater omentum will literally migrate over to that specific area, wrap itself around the infected tissue, and wall it off. It physically contains the spread of infection to protect the rest of your tightly packed organs. It's amazing. Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds the intestinal absorption system. Once the stomach has finished its violent churning, it carefully squirts that liquid chyme down into a long, highly folded, tightly coiled tube known as the small intestine. The small intestine is broken down into 3 tightly packed segments. First up, the duodenum receives the chyme, mixing it with enzymes from the pancreas and bile from the liver. Then it's squeezed into the jejunum, which is the prime real estate for absorbing carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and vitamins directly into your bloodstream. Finally, the ileum sweeps up whatever is left, like vital B12. And this whole time, the muscular walls of the intestine are performing rhythmic, wave-like contractions called peristalsis. It's a continuous, coordinated wave, just constantly pushing the food forward through miles of tubing, carefully stuffed into your abdomen. Notice how the division of labor works here. If you look on the left, the small intestine is all about harvesting. It's the primary site for pulling nutrients out of your food and putting them to work in your body. On the right, the large intestine takes whatever material is left over, which is mostly liquid waste at this point, and focuses entirely on water recovery and waste formation. It acts as the body's recycling center, compacting the remaining material into feces while reclaiming every single drop of hydration it can. Geographically, the large intestine practically frames the entire lower abdomen. It starts at the bottom right with the ascending colon traveling upward, then crosses horizontally right under your stomach via the transverse colon. It then travels down the left side as the descending colon, snakes through the S-shaped sigmoid colon, and finally stores the compacted, dehydrated waste in the rectum before it's expelled. It basically forms an elegant 3D border wrapping entirely around the small intestine.
All right, moving to section 4, pancreas, the dual function organ.
Now we shift our focus slightly deeper into the abdomen to a true unsung hero, and that is the pancreas. This soft, elongated organ is tucked very carefully away behind the lower part of the stomach. It's nestled deeply in the abdominal cavity, perfectly positioned to execute two incredibly vital but very different bodily functions. And this brilliantly illustrates how it splits its time between two crucial biological jobs. Half of its identity is exocrine, meaning it acts as a factory, pumping powerful digestive enzymes directly into the duodenum to break down your food. The other half is endocrine, meaning it acts as a precise glandular control center, releasing essential hormones like insulin into your blood. Let's connect this 3D anatomy straight back to your daily life, because this is where the magic really happens. The insulin mechanism, driven entirely by your pancreas, is the biological key to managing your metabolic rate and your visceral belly fat. Depending on what you eat, your pancreas releases insulin. That insulin hacks like a key, unlocking your cells to let energy in. But here is the kicker. High levels of insulin signal your body to store fat, particularly that deep abdominal fat. Low, stable levels signal your body that it's safe to burn fat. Your pancreas literally acts as the primary switch. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how you can actually hack this biological mechanism. We're looking at the impact of food sequencing. If you eat a meal with poor sequencing, say slamming down a bunch of bare carbohydrates first, you trigger a massive sharp spike in insulin from your pancreas. But if you eat protein first, like an egg, before you eat your carbs, you physically coat the stomach and slow digestion down. This leads to a beautifully stable insulin release. You're using your knowledge of how this tightly packed 3D machine works to naturally boost your own metabolic rate. It's a real game changer. And finally, Section 5, the masterpiece of 3D engineering. We have reached the final leg of our tour. What we've looked at today is nothing short of a masterpiece of 3D engineering. From the liver massaging against your diaphragm, to the gut policeman physically migrating to stop infections, to the dual factory pancreas dictating your entire metabolism. All of this digestion, filtration, and hormone regulation happens seamlessly, simultaneously, in a space that has absolutely zero wasted room. It is a breathtaking, highly coordinated dance of biology. Which leaves us with this final, provocative question for you to ponder. How will your next meal activate this highly coordinated 3D machine? Every single bite you take sets off this incredible chain reaction. I hope this explainer has given you a newfound appreciation for the complex, tightly packed marvel of engineering that is your own body. Thank you so much for exploring with me, and stay curious.